Today's video is for students or other folks that may be interested in a career in petroleum engineering. So we want to talk about, what do petroleum engineers do? All right, there are three main areas of petroleum engineering. It covers a lot of activities, but the three main activities are drilling, where you create the new wells; production, where you exploit or produce the wells; and reservoir engineering, where you evaluate the wells. All right, so let's talk about drilling. Drilling can be well design, the hole size, the mud programs, well planning, logistics, what rigs you're going to need to have. You can be involved with cost estimation, where all you do is estimate the costs of various well proposals to see which one would be the best option. Completion design, you design the downhole equipment and the tools and the perforating that's needed to complete a well, and stimulations. You can do drilling optimization, where you look at ways to speed up the drilling or lower the cost of the drilling. You can also do rig design, to look at what equipment's going to be needed if you design rigs to handle certain types of well projects. Logistics, moving of the rigs, building of the facility, pads or drilling locations. You can design the casing strings that go in the well bore, design the fracture stimulation jobs. You can develop the logging programs and hire the service companies to run the right logs. And you also can be a field supervisor, where you supervise the day-to-day operations of the wells and the equipment and the personnel, and make sure that correct services are there on time, and that the well gets drilled quickly, efficiently, and safely. You can also be in sales, where you sell your drilling services, rig services, or maybe drill bits or other equipment that's needed to drill the well efficiently. So you can be in sales. Production engineering. You monitor and optimize the production by looking at different ways to produce the wells, identify problems, reduce chokes or bottlenecks. Design artificial lift systems, selecting the right system, buying the equipment and installing the equipment to lift the wells. You can do workover design, when you have to repair a well, or recompletion design, where you're going to change the producing zone and you have to reperforate or move some of the equipment around. You can design that and implement that. You can do computer flow modeling to predict flow rates and identify problems, or to look at what different options of equipment, how the flow would change if you install that type of equipment. You can design and supervise well interventions, where maybe you need to bring a rig back on the well to repair some tubing or wireline equipment, or a coiled tubing unit to go in and make some changes to the well, or repair problems, or change the equipment. You can work with chemical treatments for corrosion control, paraffin control, and flow assurance. You can also be involved with facilities design, surface facilities, tanks, production equipment, compressors, saltwater disposal facilities, pipelines, that sort of thing. Stimulating of the wells by maybe paraffin treatments or acid jobs, or refracturing the wells. You can design the tubing strings and all the downhole equipment in the tubing to help efficiently flow the well. You can recommend and interpret production logs that help identify the flow regimes and problems in the well bore. And you can supervise production operations, the crews, the personnel, and the reporting of the production and the monitoring of the production. You can be a field supervisor. You can also be in sales, where you sell production solutions, chemicals, artificial lift equipment, production logs, technical services. So you can be in sales as a production engineer. Reservoir engineering. You do all the drilling proposals. You decide where the best place to drill, how many wells we need to drill, why we need to drill there. Run the project economics to make sure all the projects meet economic hurdles, and you have to be able to incorporate risk and uncertainty in those economics. You have to do the reserve estimates, either for a project or a field or a company, for external reporting or for internal analysis. Acquisition evaluations, you evaluate other fields and properties that you might be looking to acquire to come up with a good value. Reservoir simulation, building models, matching histories of the production history and determining drive mechanisms and future development plans and optimizing those plans with reservoir simulation models. You can recommend and design and interpret well tests that give you information about the well's completion and the reservoir properties. You can propose and interpret logs, cased hole and open hole, where you determine fluid contacts, rock properties, and other situations in the reservoir or well. You can design water floods and EOR projects, monitor them and implement them. You can perform data analytics with reservoir and production and well data and write computer programs to help analyze this data so you can improve your operations. You can do development planning, look at different ways to develop the fields, how many wells you need, do you need water injection, how much is that going to cost, so you can help with the planning of developments. And then you're in charge of the forecasting of the production and reserves and the operating expense and the capital needed. So for a company to be able to make plans on how much revenue they're going to be getting and how much capital they need to exercise all their projects. You can be an expert witness where you testify in court in equity hearings or reserve disputes. Some reservoir engineers can work in gas storage, analyzing the reservoirs and the monitoring of the wells and efficiently operating the gas storage facilities. And you can also be in sales where you sell expertise or computer software or well test interpretation, those sort of things that help clients with reservoir engineering. All right, so who needs petroleum engineers? Who hires them? The major oil companies hire most of the petroleum engineers. They're the largest employers. But you have national oil companies that hire petroleum engineers. You have independent or smaller companies that hire petroleum engineers. And the service providers, the rig companies, computer software companies, consulting firms that provide expertise or third-party reserve reports or other consulting to outside parties. Financial firms that finance the projects or lend money to oil companies need petroleum engineers to help with that. Or government agencies that monitor and regulate oil and gas operations. And investors that are looking to invest in certain projects or develop certain projects, they hire petroleum engineers to help with that also. All right, what kind of work environment can you expect, or what is it? So most petroleum engineers work in an office environment where they plan and monitor the operations and do the evaluations and recommendations in the office. But some petroleum engineers work exclusively in the field with logistics, drilling, operations, supervision, monitoring of the field personnel and the service companies. And that can be on the land or offshore well locations. And then some petroleum engineers work in the office and field, depending on the stage of the project, where they can plan and monitor a lot of the stuff, but if there's a problem or a special project going on, they can go in the field to supervise it or to make sure it goes correctly. All right, so where do you work as a petroleum engineer? Well, this map shows a lot of countries that produce oil and gas, and it's all over the world. So you can pretty much work anywhere as a petroleum engineer. Well, I hope that gives you a little idea of all the things petroleum engineers can do, and I hope you found that interesting and informative, and just contact me if you have any questions.